you for your introduction. Thank you for your kind words. I look back with gratitude for the award that you and CWA presented to me during the last legislative session. And I want you to know that I strive to live up to the ideals and the convictions that we talked about at the time, and I will continue to strive every single day to live up to what CWA and so many groups and organizations in this room stand for. If I could, let me start out my comments today by creating a framework into which we can set the meat of these comments. Earlier this month, I had the opportunity to recognize a native Texas son and a great American hero when I set February 2nd of this year as Chris Kyle Day. Now, I did that for several reasons. One is because Chris Kyle obviously fought for freedom itself, but he did so much more. Chris Kyle himself, as he admitted, was merely the face of his fellow members of the United States military who fought for that very same freedom. But when you read Chris Kyle's book and see the movie and learn more about his life, you see that he fought for the ideals and values that have made America so great. He fought so that we, the people in this room, would have the freedom to fight in capitals just like this. America needs warriors like Chris Kyle out on the battlefield. But just as important, we also need warriors on the battlefield of ideas. You are those warriors. Look at some of the people who were called out and mentioned. I think it was by you, Ann. We had Van Taylor and Rick Miller. I'm looking around the room. They may have already left and gone back to work. They were really warriors for America, having served with Van Taylor in the United States Marines and Rick Miller in the United States Navy. But just as powerfully, they did not lay down their arms when they retired from the military. They picked up the other arms of fighting for the ideals to protect the values that have enriched and propelled Texas to the conservative bastion that it is. But it doesn't take members of the United States military to be warriors. It takes the other people, Ann, who you introduced as speakers today, people like Kathy Adams, John Seago, Alan Parker, Dave Welch, Jonathan Sines, and it takes every single man and woman in this room and the people who will be on the steps of the Capitol today, and those who fight shoulder to shoulder with you, ensuring that we protect, preserve, and defend the values that have inculcated the state of Texas from its very beginnings. And that's so important as we gather today. As we've seen literally this week and this month, repeatedly we have judges who are legislating from the bench. We have a president using executive orders to rewrite the laws in this land. We have the will of the people being ignored, and our very freedoms themselves are under siege. We must respond with typical Texas tenacity. That tradition, by the way, dates back to this very date. this very date in 1836. Some of you Texas historians, I can see the nodding heads knowing where I am going. It was on this date in 1836 when William B. Travis was besieged at the Alamo, knowing that there were only a few days left, knowing that he was facing certain death, when he penned the famous letter that he sent out to, quote, the people of Texas and to all Americans in the world. And despite the insurmountable odds he faced, he said, I shall never surrender or retreat. We must continue that very same character and conviction when it comes to the values that have made Texas great. Faith and family. We shall never surrender or retreat in our fight for those values. Frankly, when we see the secularism that is trying to be imposed upon us today, I would say the demand for us is even higher now, more than ever, that we continue to push back against the hostility toward faith and family. Now, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. You all are most familiar with what would be categorized as the most profound way in which I fought to defend faith in this state when I successfully fought to defend the Ten Commandments monument that stands on the Texas Capitol grounds. But the significant point is this, and that is, even though you all know about that well-known fight, that was not the only fight that we waged to defend faith in this state. This is an assault that we see year after year after year that requires persistence and perseverance in fighting to protect the faith that was guaranteed to us under the United States Constitution. As just a sampling, when atheists sued to remove the phrase, one nation under God, in our Pledge of Allegiance, we fought back, we won, to ensure that that phrase remains in the pledge. When atheists waged their annual assault in their war on Christmas, and they filed a lawsuit most recently in Athens, Texas, to try to remove a nativity scene from the county courthouse grounds. We got involved. We helped defend Athens, Texas. We defended that nativity scene, allowing it to continue to stand, and we won. And when atheists a few years ago tried to stop high school seniors from having an invocation and benediction at their graduation ceremony, atheists sued to intervene, apparently oblivious to the fact that days before, those seniors had engaged in prayer as they were taking their final examinations. But we intervened and we prevailed, ensuring that those seniors were going to have an invocation and benediction at their graduation ceremony. But I got to tell you, the list goes on annually, but the one that I am most proud of is when cheerleaders in Kuntz, Texas, put Bible verses on banners. Now think about this. Think of the challenges that we see high school students going through today, and some of the poor choices and some of the challenges these high school students face. These cheerleaders should be applauded for putting Bible verses on banners. But even more than that, these cheerleaders should be applauded for the fortitude they showed by standing up against this organization from Wisconsin named the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and even standing up against their own local education officials, fighting back. We joined them in their fight, and they won, ensuring they were entitled to continue to display Bible verses on banners. Well, just like faith, strong families are essential to a strong Texas. Now, I have seen very profoundly the effect of fractured families on the state of Texas. I saw that in my role as Attorney General, as the person in charge of collecting child support in this state. Collecting child support on behalf of more than 1 million children each and every year. Here's the amazing fact that you need to know. And that is, when you look at the newly established child support orders each and every year, well over a majority of them are based upon children who are born out of wedlock. The core of strong families begins with marriage. That's right. And marriage and that marriage should be between one man and one woman. Now, it's interesting because the fight about marriage is on the front pages these days. But this is the fight that I've been waging for more than a decade now. In my first year as Attorney General back in 2003, even before the constitutional amendment passed in the state of Texas, we were defending traditional marriage. And I did so for two simple reasons. One, marriage is God-made law, not man-made law, just like the Ten Commandments that stands on the temple court. And two, the reason why we should win this case at the United States Supreme Court is because the United States Constitution gives to states the authority to define marriage. And in Texas, we define marriage as the union between one man and one woman. And I know that General Ken Paxton will continue to vigorously defend the righteousness of traditional marriage in the state of Texas. Now, strong families also have another benefit for the people of Texas. Strong families lead to better education outcomes for our children. As governor, I want to do so much more to improve education in this state. And that starts at early education. I see we have some young children with us today. With some very pretty cowgirl boots right there. Look at them. If all the children in this state were as respectful as these young women, what a great state this would be. Well, as governor, I want to ensure that children at your age and even younger are able to ensure that they get off to education in the right way by building a strong foundation for education from the earliest ages, ensuring that every child in Texas will be able to read and do math at or above grade level by the time they finish the 3rd grade. But to aid our education process, that in part means that we have to do more to trust and empower our teachers in the classroom. And in part, that means insisting on no common core in the classroom. We have to put our trust in the teachers and get away from all of these one-size-fits-all mandates that tie our teachers' hands. But I would suggest to you that even more powerful than the role that teachers play is the critical role that parents play in improving the academic achievement of our children. And the ultimate parental involvement is giving parents more choices in their child's education. At my State of the State address that I provided to the legislature last week, I recounted the story of a woman from Houston, Texas, and about her struggle to try to find the right and best school to send her daughter to. The woman's name is Keisha Riley. And she said, and I'll quote for you, "Having a school in my area that doesn't fit my needs is frustrating. It makes me feel helpless because I want my daughter to be in a good school and I want her to have a good education so that she doesn't have to struggle like I did." As she spoke, her little daughter reached up and wiped a tear away from her mother's cheek. This story forces lawmakers in Texas to look Keisha in the eye and ask the question, are we working for her and her daughter, or are we working for the status quo of education in Texas? Our children deserve better results, and our parents deserve more and better school choice. But, and let me harken back to a theme that you heard me echo during the course of my campaign against Wendy Davis. For children to have a better chance in life, those children must first have a chance at life. I want to thank you all for your tireless efforts over the past 2 years to ensure that more children in the state of Texas will have that chance at life. Because of you, Texas leads the nation in defending those who don't have a voice. Because of you, Texas passed HB 2 in the last legislative session. Because of you, innocent life is protected after 5 months of pregnancy. The unborn are spared from pain, and the safety standards for women are improved. And when HB 2 was challenged in court, we defended it vigorously and we won. can assure you that protecting the unborn will always be a priority for me as your governor. And for me, this is as much personal as it is principle. Because for me, I've had the privilege of having multiple titles. I'm governor. I used to be general. I used to be judge. But the title that matters the most to me is the title of dad. Our lives were blessed and forever transformed the moment that my wife Cecilia and I held our daughter on the very day that she was born. We thank God for the precious gift of Audrey's life. And we thank God for Audrey's birth mother, who was strong enough to give Audrey a new life with our family. That's why I believe so strongly in promoting adoption as a loving alternative rather than ending the life of a child, because I know there's so many parents out there who will love a child just the way that my wife and I have loved our daughter Audrey. Let me just close with this, kind of circling back to where I began. Just like William B. Travis at the Alamo all those years ago, we, the people in this room and those who are members of your organizations, we stand as sentries on the wall of liberty and freedom in Texas. Our future success depends in large part on the people in this room and the organizations represented by the people in this room. With the grace of God and with your continuing commitment, we will defend life. We will defend liberty and the freedom to raise our families in faith. And let me just end it by connecting to another quote from Isaiah. If you recall, Rick Miller began with his opening prayer with a quote from Isaiah. Let me use a different one. It's Isaiah 6:8. Many of you recall this one. It's a familiar one. But let it touch your souls today. Isaiah heard the Lord calling, saying, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" And Isaiah raised his hand and said, "Here am I, send me." I think the Lord is calling you similarly, saying, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" We cannot sit on the sidelines. We must all be Isaiah. We must all raise our hand. We must all respond to the Lord. We must all volunteer to be sent in to the battle, to fight for God, to fight for faith, to fight for freedom, to fight for the future of the great state of Texas. Thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless the future of this great state.